County work session. This is on impact fees. Joey, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight I've asked Ms. Paige Hatley and Mr. Bill Ross to brief us on our impact fee program, our impact fee schedule, I should say. Tonight they'll go over what we have accomplished to this point, and then we'll also discuss our impact fees and how you all would like for us to proceed going forward. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you, Joey. Okay, so is the PowerPoint? Oh, thank you so much. Great. And do you all have this? Do you have paper copies or on a monitor, or is it just?
Yeah, we've got paper copies.
Okay, great. I've got the same. Thank you for your time tonight. The last time that someone from the Ross and Associates team was here was to present the capital improvements element, and specifically Ross and Associates. Of course, that's Bill Ross, and I'm Paige Hatley, part of the Ross Associates team. And I was here several months ago to present the capital improvements element, which is the component of the impact fee program that delineates projects that are eligible for impact fee funding. It was, of course, transmitted to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs for review and approval and subsequently adopted by the board. And so that list of projects pertaining to libraries, parks, public safety is now current. And so impact fees being collected can be spent on those projects to help meet future needs over time for these capital facilities. Let's see, jumping ahead. So what we want to do tonight, as Joey mentioned, is touch on where we come from, where we are, and where we're going as part of the typical steps to update an impact fee program. As I mentioned, we've got one of two major components done. The first being the capital improvements element, or CIE. It was a full-blown amendment, brand new standalone document or appendix to your comprehensive plan, if you will. The second component is changes to your current development impact fee ordinance. You have an ordinance on the books. Included in that is your current fee schedule. Because it has some age on it, the ordinance, I believe, was adopted in 2008. We have proposed amendments to the text to make sure that it's consistent with current state law. And the ordinance is also home to the fee schedule. So if the board would like to contemplate changing the fees to help pay for the new list of capital projects adopted in your new CIE, then the ordinance is the opportunity to do so. Specifically, what we look at is a maximum fee schedule that we're going to present tonight, a maximum established by calculations in the methodology report that was presented several months ago that tells us the most that the county can charge new development to help pay for new development's share of the cost of future project needs. And this is to comply with state law, which tells us we can't charge development more than their fair share. So that maximum ceiling, the maximum fee that can be charged for the library category, for the parks category, for public safety, for roads, that's established in the methodology report. So we're going to talk about what that looks like relative to what you're currently charging, and offer that as a discussion. Again, if you want to change the fee schedule, what's the ceiling that you could go up to? You just can't exceed, but you could adopt anything under that maximum. So for example, this slide is for illustrative purposes, shows some example or sample land uses, starting with a single family home. The far left column is showing for about these 10 uses, what is the current fee? This is from your 2016 fee schedule. This is what's charged per dwelling unit, For warehousing, for example, 60 cents per square foot, et cetera. So we have a sampling of various land uses or typical land uses. The middle column where it says current maximum fee, that was the maximum fee established when the impact fee was established, I think, again, 2008. So that's the most that the county could have gone up to or could adopt to help pay for the projects that were identified in the adopted CIE back at that time. So we want to show you, what are you charging now? What's the maximum that you could charge under your current program, meaning the previous program? And then the column where it says new maximum fee 2024, that's of course the new maximum or the new ceiling that could be charged, and it's showing you what that looks like relative to the fees that are currently in place. The next table is another that's trying to offer a sense of, well, what are other folks charging? We looked at all counties across the state that are identified by Georgia Department of Community Affairs as active impact fee programs, as well as any that were nearby. So the closest, Savannah, and I believe Flemington. We include Flemington, yes. Now it's a little bit misleading as far as trying to show apples to apples, because for one, you'll notice that some of these fees, the adopted fees that other folks are charging, they may have been in place for a long time. They may not be covering but just a few categories. So wherever you see public safety, for example, in one community, that public safety fee may just be for fire. In another community, that public safety fee may be covering fire, EMS, EMA, sheriff, et cetera. And then we indicated as well where it says less than the max, the column that's the second to the far right. That's indicating, best on our, what we understand, is communities that adopted less than their maximum ceiling that was established as they were developing an impact fee program. And then, of course, you can see in the far right, you can see just how old some of the programs are, and several of these with an asterisk indicates that they too, like the county, are undergoing a full update to their fees, both in terms of projects as well as the fee schedules themselves. We're going to revisit this in a minute. Bill has a really interesting interactive exercise where we're going to pull up the list of the representative uses that you saw, about the 10 uses. Oops, what did I do? Sorry. No, how do I zoom it back? No, not yet. I'm sorry. Or do you want to? Do you want to jump to that or go through it first? Let's finish the overview. Okay. Sorry. Okay, thanks. So we're going to come back to this where, as mentioned, we're going to, when we skip over to an interactive exercise, we can show what the fees would look like if you wanted to consider a reduction in the fee schedule at 50% for each public facility category. If you wanted to reduce certain categories by a different percentage to arrive at a specific number, for example, that you have in mind for a fee for a detached single-family house. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but we're going to come back to the whole notion of the actual fee schedule itself and what some different scenarios could look at for your consideration. I mentioned the ordinance. In addition to housing the fee schedule, it touches on several mechanisms that illustrate how the county can further reduce fees. Now, this is basically on a case-by-case example or basis, but there are tools in place that, regardless of the fees that are adopted, an applicant has at his or her disposal tools to consider a reduction in the fee. There's a typical appeals process, for example. There's something called an individual assessment, where if someone has a unique use that perhaps isn't found on the fee schedule, then there can be calculations done to help come up with an understanding of what an appropriate fee may be. Or if someone thinks that the impact of their use doesn't match with the fee being assessed, then again, that ties back to the appeals process. And there's also an exemption policy that is on the next page here. This is in your ordinance currently, and this is consistent with what's allowed by state law, which talks about exemptions, either partial or full exemptions of impact fees for certain applications coming through. The county's exemption policy specifically relates to what the state discusses as examples or instances of extraordinary economic development, which has to be defined by a community. And there would have to be certain criteria met in order for an application to receive a reduction, either partial or wholesale reduction in the fee. The caveat there is that any reduction or waiver of the fee has to be made up by the county. The idea being that there is a public benefit to authorizing a reduction or waiver for these certain exemptions. And therefore, money from somewhere from the county would have to go back into the impact fee fund to make up for the fees that aren't being paid by that development. The state also has an exemption or allows for an exemption policy for affordable housing. Again, state doesn't define it. It just says if you want to consider an exemption for affordable housing, then any community with an impact fee program can define that, have a policy, set criteria, et cetera. And that's something that we can certainly discuss further if the board would like. I think Savannah most recently adopted one, and then Sandy Springs is the only other impact fee community in the state that has an affordable housing exemption policy. Most other communities just have that relates to extraordinary economic development. And then once the determination is made as to if the board wants to deviate from the current fee schedule, then what might that look like? Well, ultimately, then the process for adopting a new fee schedule is just shown here. One, what's to be adopted, and then initiating an amendment to the ordinance itself. So we would have updated text to make sure it's compliant with current state law. We would have an updated fee schedule. Those require 2 public hearings before adoption. And then at that time, also a determination would have to be made by the board as to when the new fees would take effect. So that's the overall process then. And we were wanting to, I'm going to turn this over to Bill to look at some of these scenarios. This is the overall summary maximum fee schedule. So this is 2 pages. This includes the most common land uses, starting with residential, going all the way down to various commercial, industrial uses, et cetera. And so you'll note that we have each public facility category shown, what the fee would be per unit, whether it's per dwelling unit, per square foot, per motel room, et cetera. Most commercial or most non-residential uses are by square foot. So if the board wants to contemplate fees that are less than this maximum that's presented, it can be done in various ways. And that relates to the fee scenarios that Bill's going to walk through. There can be percentage reduction across the board. There can be a percentage reduction in one public facility category that differs from a percentage reduction in another public facility category. The key is that any reduction that's made in one category, so for roads, for example, that same percentage has to apply to every single land use. So we can't cherry pick and exempt certain land uses. Again, this gets back to the issue of us needing to adhere to the spirit of the state law. So I'm thinking this would best. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. And it might make sense to see what I'm talking about if you want to fire up the on the fly. And so what Bill has is we've got one where he's got the opportunity to, based on feedback and discussion, he can show what various fees would look like. If there is a desire to reduce fees on residential uses to a greater extent, for example, well, you can see that library and parks categories, those are only assessed of residential uses. If there's a desire, oops, you got it? If there's interest in seeing what a wholesale reduction would look like across the board, reducing by 50%, 20%, 70% for each public facility category, we can do so. So I know we're kind of throwing a lot out and trying to understand what the board's wishes are as far as prospective fees. So we can, I don't know if we want to take any questions or just let Bill show you what we're talking about, and I'll take a beat.
What we might want to see if there's anything we haven't covered that you have questions about on the presentation before we get into the numbers themselves.
One question I got is, we're going from 7 categories down to 4. What happens to the old money that's in the other categories that are going away?
The old money still has to stay in your impact fee funds, and they have to be spent on facilities in those. And they have to be spent on, if you have, I'll make up something, library. If you have money left over from library and we're not going to charge for library anymore, they still have to be spent in the future on library impact fee eligible projects until you finally spend it all out.
We consolidated and streamlined categories. So we have fewer public safety categories that are presented individually, but it's okay. It's basically, there's a name change, but anything that was addressed separately before, as if it was EMS as opposed to another non-fire category, well, those funds are still there. They are just going to be grouped now in the umbrella category of the non-fire public safety. So it's the big picture wise, it really doesn't change what's there and what it can be spent on, if that makes sense.
We won't have any orphans, you said.
Right.
Okay.
No orphans.
No orphans.
Correct.
No
It will.
orphans.
Yeah, well said.
So let's see, can we get the spreadsheet up? Well, yes, it is. I saw it move a minute ago. Thank you. You see several tests. And under test number 1, this is how these forms look. There's a summary form at the top of just some common land uses. Well, I did it again. Oh. Oh, okay. So these are a few of your about 140 different land use categories, very similar to your impact fee schedule right now. And in this case, this is 100%. And as Paige mentioned, at 100%, a single family house would be $89.40 for the impact fee, summing all of the individual categories. Now, there's 2 things we can do. Number 1, we can play with these percentages. I wonder if I've done anything yet. No, test 2. I think they're all still at 100.
but we can change. We could, for instance, well, oh, excuse me, yes, Paige just pointed out, we did do a 55.54% example. And I think that was to line up with a single family house, was it not? Yeah, we took, the average, price that houses are selling for, in the county over the past year or so. We just pulled it out of Zillow for houses that were built and sold within the past year. We didn't want to go back too far. And so, that average house is selling for almost $500,000 in the county. So as an example for you, we said, well, what if the impact fee was 1% of that house price? And that's what this test, the 1% would be $4,965. And it would in fact be the sum of almost 56% of the maximums across the board. As Paige indicated, we can change any one of these. This could be 55%, this could be 40%, this could be 20%, whatever numbers. Obviously, it's easiest if they're all the same. So we have more tests. Again, here's test number 3. We can change these percentages to anything you'd like to see and see what the result would be. The other thing we can do is say, if we start off backwards and say, well, wait a minute, I think the fee ought to be $2,000. I made that up. We can take the $2,000 and determine what that percentage is of the maximum and spread that across all of the various categories also. We could, and as Paige indicated, we could charge more for libraries, less for fire protection, however you feel that would be appropriate in the long run. But let me start this off a lot simpler. Do you have an idea or a feel for how much the total impact fee for a single family house ought to be?
Trevor's the builder.
No pressure there, Coach. I mean, it's a tough, conversation that we talk about affordable housing. Really, affordability is right? So it's not necessarily for any certain people, but it's there. I've got a tough time looking at that and really a balancing act. Like you've got new citizens and current citizens. Like at what point there, new citizens have faith in services and certain agreements that have to be made. I don't know. I mean, relatively speaking, I know our impact fees are. But I have seen some of that. I have seen them. It's really. So I mean, that really puts that $4 billion segment that we're talking about. I think the last year, thinking about like this, we're talking about a maximum of $78 million increase for every $1,000 that a household is increased. That price is out 4,300 households. So talk about 7.8 times 43. So if we did go to the maximum, you're talking about pricing out 33,000 households that could potentially buy that home.
We're not recommending the maximum. Go ahead.
Just kind of talking through that, but
something you should consider is an exemption for affordable housing. Once you define what is affordable housing, what's the limit before it's not affordable anymore. There are several ways to come at that. No, it would be an exemption. It's an exemption that's allowed by the state law and it's in your ordinance. What's in your ordinance allows you to adopt such a program, but then you have to spell out what that program is in a separate ordinance. It could be a sliding scale. We did a affordable housing study in Rockdale County. We started with the median house price. We looked at all the house prices that had been sold over the past year. We took, and Rockdale was easy. It was all single family houses. We took the median and we said any house that sells for less than the median is affordable. And the more it was below the median, the more affordable it was. So the exemption got bigger and bigger as the house prices went down. Rockdale County loved it. They extolled the system. They went on and on and on. The greatest thing they'd ever seen since sliced bread, and then they didn't adopt it. But that's one model that I think would be very applicable to here, to a sliding scale. The more affordable a house, and you need to set it up this way. The builder pays the impact fee because we don't know what he's going to sell that house for, regardless of what he thinks. When he actually sells it, then we know what did it actually sell for. And if we're on that sliding scale, we will know exactly what the impact fee would have been. And we give a rebate to the homeowner. Whoever bought that house gets a refund from the impact fee program to the extent that it was an affordable house. That way, we don't know what that house is going to sell for until the signatures go on the actual sale. We know what a builder might advertise a house for, but that's, as you know, is debatable or not debatable. But at any rate, it's up for conversation between a buyer. And also, of course, there's add-on improvements in addition to the bottom line sales price. If you want the marble top kitchen tabletop, if you want the marble instead of the linoleum, that's an add-on. So until that house sells, we don't really know what was paid for it. But as soon as we know that, they would be eligible for an impact right to the home buyer, because in essence, the home buyer has paid that original impact fee up front. So that is a good option here in order to address affordable housing. Under the law, whatever you forgive, the county has to put it into the impact fee funds. I think that's the main reason why a lot of people have not adopted.
That's the catch there.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you put in what our current impact fees are on that?
I'm trying to think if we
I
already.
think it'll be like, 11. Yeah,
It's on the first slide.
if my math is right, it's 11.77%.
Oh, the first slide, test one? No, test two. Is that what you're charging now? Oh,
It's on that first slide.
Oh, yeah, that was from the slideshow, but nothing.
oh, that was in her presentation.
Yes.
Okay, it's not in my spreadsheet here. So if you give us a minute.
5262.
Okay, give me a few minutes. What I'll need to do, actually, anybody got a calculator? We can do this more quickly than I can in the spreadsheet. Well, that's all right.
Well, I'm not inclined to increase the impact fee at this time. That's why I say we put in what we're charging now.
Matter of fact, if we wanted to reduce them, that would be a great idea as well. No, but, I mean, looking back at the purpose of the impact fee, how would you just define that to the average person, in terms of the intention of that?
I'm sorry, I was sitting here looking at my calculator.
I guess, if you were going to define impact fee to the average person, how would you explain, what that money is used for in layman terms of, what it provides beyond the additional tax digest?
Well, for the average home buyer or anybody moving into the county, that money is going to go into the expansion of the fire system to serve them, expansion of the parks and recreation system, library. In other words, it's going to create more facilities in order to address their needs. Without impact fees, over time, you can't get your kid into Little League because there's not enough room at the stadiums for him to play or whatever. You have to stand in line at the library longer to check out a book because there's no expansion going on. So it keeps newcomers being served by the county at the same level as everybody else has been.
Only if we spend the money,
Yes,
which in the last 5 years, we've spent 180,000 on a fire truck, and we did some engineering on the Honey Creek boat ramp, and we paid for your study, and that's about it. Because our buckets are spread out so much that it takes so much time to accumulate enough money to actually say buy a fire truck. That's why I've advocated for less buckets.
and I have a suspicion that that's the last $180,000 fire truck you'll ever buy. I'll bet you it's 220 at least already, the same truck. I have
Yeah.
never seen inflation as fast and big as anything as fire trucks.
Yep.
A couple of years ago, you could get a ladder truck for 500. Now they're $1,500,000. Yeah.
And those are all really good, good causes as far as, expenditures and what they're going towards. I'm just wondering at what point, and typically I've seen a lot of jurisdictions that have experience, with really high impact fees, probably not be the most conservative in managing their, I would say like their digest in general. Like had they been more conservative with their tax digest, they wouldn't necessarily need a super high impact fee. So I guess that's kind of where I'm thinking. It's like, the higher these impact fees are going, are you leaning more towards having the new people coming to town only paying for their services instead of everybody here? Which is great if you're already here, but terrible if you're moving here
Yeah.
or relocating.
Well, as far as services go, everybody's going to be paying for that. The new folks are paying for the facilities themselves, not the services that are provided. And so the whole tax base is going to be paying those firemen their salaries, buying them hoses and things like that. Whereas the new development would be helping to buy another fire truck on top of what he's already got, because the demand for putting out fires is going to grow as the population grows. So it's hardware, and explaining it to newcomers, we're paying for hardware to provide services to them. Meanwhile, the general fund is paying for the services themselves.
And you got to remember, this is unincorporated area. We really haven't had a whole lot of growth until recently in the unincorporated area.
Can I ask just two questions? This is my first time going through this. It looks like to me that again, the single family and the, hold on a minute, hold on. The duplexes, the multifamily, all of them, they pay for the library services and parks and recreation. Nobody else, no industry, no hotel, none of those guys for that? At all?
The vast majority of people who use your parks live here. Most people who work here, they use the parks because they live here. Otherwise, they go home to wherever Jacksonville or wherever they live. And that's why, those two categories are focused on the residential, folks, because they're the ones who get most of the services out of those two categories.
And it has to be that way. You can't add these other, like the industry, you can't get them to pay any of that.
I'd have to be able to quantify how much businesses use those facilities.
Okay.
Because then I could say, well, non-residential should pay X percent of the fee. Residential would pay the other percentage. But that's what I would need to do. It's all based on services available and being used
Who uses?
by folks. Yeah.
All right, I have one more question.
So, the company itself might not use the facilities, the parks and the library, but their employees will when they buy houses and.
But what if they don't buy a house here? I mean, it's,
Well, if they don't buy a house here, they're probably not using your parks or your library. Well, they can't get a library card probably. So the focus is on folks who actually live here and have available. Now, somebody who lives in Jacksonville, works here, goes over to the park to eat his lunch. That's a minimal use. I'm trying to remember the word in the state law uses a phrase about inconsequential use of facilities are left out, it can be left out of the impact fee program.
we could put a toll gate.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, one more question. All right, you've got 1,052.62, which is our current fee that we do single family detached housing. And then warehousing, you've got 0.60. I ran some numbers, tell me if they're correct, they might not be, but a 3,000 square foot warehouse would pay $1,800 current fee, impact fee right now, right? Does that sound legitimate?
That sounds like what we got, yeah.
And then like on a motel with the 40 rooms, it'd be around 16,520. Does that sound? That's,
What's the 16,000?
what I did was I took 413.34 and multiplied it times 40 rooms because this is 413.
I'm
So
sorry.
your impact fee
I'm
for a
sorry.
motel would be 16,520.
Yes.
So in essence,
Oh.
you're getting it. You just couldn't spend it on parks and recreation.
Well,
It was all-
the money you collect has to be spent in the category for which it was collected.
Which
So
would be-
you could not take impact fees, paid by hotels
Right.
and go spend it on library services. You have to spend it on road improvements, public safety, or fire protection, because those are the categories in which the fee was levied. It's got to be spent in the same category as you collected it.
So that money could basically be used to buy an ambulance, so to speak. Am I correct? That's public safety.
Yeah.
That was really what I was trying to get at.
For my $1.5 million fire truck.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can plug this thing in. Okay. No, it didn't come out right. Wait a minute. 11. I'm still not getting this right.
Every $1,000 you cash now, 4,300 tax rates.
Well, that doesn't go on, okay. Okay. That's the 11.77. And there it is. Oh, great. I'll just do this the hard way.
So while we're waiting, the majority of funding for ambulances and fire trucks currently comes from SPOS, correct? Do we have any documentation as far as like that funding's not keeping up with our needs for the additional equipment?
When you say additional funding, you're referring to SPOS or impact fees?
Impact fees, or just the funding in general. Do we have like a needs assessment that says our existing funding for those types of services aren't keeping up with the demand or the need?
Yeah, so I think, part of what Mr. Bill and Paige are referring to is that these impact fees would go to new equipment above and beyond what we currently have in operation now. So like, let's just take ambulances, for example. We have 6 ambulances countywide right now. Impact fees could only be spent on a new additional ambulance, meaning a 7th ambulance, or an additional fire station, something that would be above and beyond what we're currently providing to the community.
Yeah, it
You know.
can't be a simple.
Can't be a replacement, yeah. It has to be
Okay.
above and
In
beyond.
addition,
Right.
okay.
So I think to your question, as far as where we need to be, I think, as we grow, as the population grows, which is part of the impact fee, I think, reasoning as we grow, as these new individuals, new developers, industry comes in, they pay part of that impact fee, which assists in, offsetting the local cost.
Yep. So I guess kind of looking at this, and this is where I have a hard time, I guess, kind of looking at it as we grow, so does SPOS, correct? So it's like, I don't know, I'm just thinking if I could see it being an issue if SPOS couldn't keep up with our demands currently, I
Yeah.
can see that.
Yeah, so I think, one's a fee, one's a sales tax. So, with sales tax, let's just take SPOS 7, for example, a little bit of history. So, SPOS 7 was passed 2013. Anticipated to collect, I believe the referendum was 65 million, I believe. We only collected 42 million. It was significantly underfunded. A lot of that was just due to the decline in, spending, economically. I think we were at the onset of 2012, 2013, the county was collecting, I think, just north of, $900,000 a month in sales tax. That went all the way down to, I think, the low 5s. And now we're back to averaging just over $1 million each month in collections. So, sales tax has a lot to do with the economy and, how people are spending their money, inflation rates, all that good stuff. So I don't know if that helps out at all. Try not to muddy the waters.
Yep.
No, we don't need to set our impact fee tonight. I'm not in favor of increasing. I'd rather leave it where it is.
There was one big change, Joey. I don't know if you wanted to talk about the RV campground. Do you mind moving the mic over, Joey?
Currently, our RV campground vehicle parks are currently set at a little over 1,700 per spot in that park. So we've actually done, or Mr. Bill done some calculations, and we've changed that with the maximum fee being able to charge $22.59 per acre. So that would open up a little bit flexibility as far as anyone wanting to do an RV park, because within the past couple of years, we've had, we know of 3 that we can recall to annex into the city because of this issue. So this one line item here would definitely open up some flexibility as far as bringing in more RV parks, because we know they're popular right now. I get numerous calls monthly, asking questions about RV parks. And the impact fee kind of scares them off. It's huge. It really is.
Yeah.
So how many spots can you put on an acre?
Well, the minimum acreage is 4 acres. So it just, I can't recall the density, but it's, I can't recall right off the top of my head. It's not many. Typically you'll see, they'll come in phases. They'll start off with say 60 spots and then elevate it more, sections they open. So typically it's from 60 to 100 to begin with. So you can see how if you had 100 spots, that's 1,700 an acre. I mean, a
Per
spot.
spot.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
very expensive.
Yeah, that's probably why that guy on Lacuna Road didn't do that. All right, anybody got anything else?
Would it be helpful to, for Paige and Mr. Bill to maybe take a, I guess send the board back just a few kind of options, one at current rate, one slightly reduced, one at slightly increased, just so y'all could have that for discussion at a later date,
Yeah, maybe 5% above and 5% below.
or whatever
Yeah,
y'all
that
would
sounds
like.
good.
You know, you, on the motel, you actually went down on the new max. Looks like you went up everywhere else. Am I right? Correct?
Yes.
Started out, the current fee's 413.34, the maximum is 1377.80. And then the new max is 772.84, so it went down.
That generally relates to significantly updated data that we used from, as related to or contrasted to 2008 as far as the ITE or Institute of Traffic Engineers Manual. So it gets kind of complicated, but as far as their numbers changing, we import that.
Okay.
And it resulted in a reduction relative to the old max, exactly.
No, we're not gonna go to the max anyway, so.
Yeah, just wondering why.
Paige, do y'all ever use like the Consumer Price Index from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, to kind of calculate, your growth as far as what the max is allowed? I mean, how are y'all calculating what the max could be?
Well, the CPI factored into, the various indexes as far as construction, building and CPI, depending on the type of project. So CPI would be used, for example, in our net present value calculations for a fire truck. So if we were to say the future cost, what would that be? Then we utilize those numbers. So that we could have a more realistic understanding of what the costs actually would be at the time of acquisition of certain things. So that factored into our overall cost calculations and saying, at the end of the day, what's the maximum fee that could be charged to help pay for these things, these projects, and what they cost. So that fed into the maximum calculations, yes.
But you are using CPI. I mean, that was kind of the, okay, thank you.
Anybody got anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you for the guidance. Thank you for your time.
We'll close this meeting. We'll start back at 6 for the regular board meeting. All right, join us for the invocation delivered by Mr. Goodman and join us in the pledge after.
Let us stand, please, and gentlemen, remove your covers. Let us pray. Our Father and our God in heaven, we come to thee. We humble ourselves. We thank thee for all your many blessings. Father, there is bereavement and loss of life among soldiers in our state. And we pray your gentle hand will touch the bereaved families. Let them know how much we honor and respect and appreciate the sacrifices that people who are willing to stand in the breach to defend us make for us. Protect all of our soldiers, protect all of our people serving us in public service, Father. Father, tonight, give us wisdom, give us guidance, give us strength. May we do the things that please thee. All these things we ask in thy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty for all.
Roll call, Kate.
All commissioners are present.
All right, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like for us to consider tonight the gun range noise that we voted on earlier and to discuss what happened to that.
I'll second it.
Normally, you know, if things, it's not an urgent matter. Of course, it might be to Mr. Manning, but normally if it's not an urgent matter, we can carry it over to the next meeting. That way everybody have time to understand the situation. We got a first and a second. All in favor?
Thank you.
We'll hear it tonight. We'll add it on the end. All right, can we get a motion to adopt the agenda as stated?
So moved.
Second.
This brings us to the approval of minutes. There's no changes to the minutes from February 6th, regular meeting and public hearing. Can I get a motion to accept them?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Minutes passed. It brings us to the presentation.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Peoples. I work for Camden County in the Human Resources Department, and I'm also a member of the Employee Recognition Committee. I have the honor tonight to present the Employee of the Fourth Quarter for 2023. The Recognition Committee received about 21 nominations for this quarter, and we received multiple nominations for this employee. The employee we are honoring tonight is one of the most friendly, courteous, and helpful employees that you will ever come across. He is always willing to jump in and help his fellow employees as well as any citizens or customers who come out to the landfill. He can be a little intimidating when you first meet him because of his large stature and those big burly hands, but don't let that fool you. His smile and sense of humor are just as big as he is. Once you talk to our Employee of the Quarter and get to know him, you can sense how much he cares for his coworkers and all those close to him. He is always a pleasure to be around and is so deserving of this award. Here are some of the comments that the coworkers said about him. Cyrus should be recognized as Employee of the Quarter for being extremely knowledgeable and helpful. Cyrus's dedication and commitment to his work stand out. He goes above and beyond what is expected to keep the landfill running smoothly. His strong work ethic sets a great example for his team, and he contributes significantly to the overall success of the landfill. Our Employee of the Quarter has been working for Camden County since June of 2001. He started as a heavy equipment operator back when Commissioner Brandt was the solid waste director. He was promoted to heavy equipment supervisor, became landfill operator certified. He then became the mechanic shop at the landfill, the mechanic shop at the landfill was later added to his supervisory duties. He became the operations manager in 2019 and has held that role since. He also filled in recently when we were without a solid waste director and did an amazing job keeping the solid waste department operating smoothly. Our employee of the quarter for the fourth quarter of 2023 is Mr. Cyrus Roberts.
Can I say something?
Yeah, you can say something. You want to?
I actually can say something, y'all. When I came in, our county administrator, he kind of scared me, Sean. He looked at me and said, "What are you doing here?" I don't know. I told to come out tonight. He said, "Oh, I think I'm scaring you. I better go sit down." So I appreciate this. Let's all go and just. It's been an honor, I mean, because it takes, a good group of people, and they're good followers, and I really appreciate, what the, not surprised with this one, had no idea. I see my wife coming in, my granddaughter, my little grandson. She be right at the dentist appointment. I said, "Well, I gotta be up here at my dentist appointment. Can you take me back?" Okay. So, it really takes. Y'all come with it. It's like. It takes the thing that helped me really successful at my job. My wife never complains about the late hours. A lot of Saturdays I get up at the last minute, I do phone calls. I say, "I gotta go." She never complained. So I'm grateful for that. And, I get teary. I can take a solid waste department. We got a good, y'all let me know. Good listening. And I talk, we sit down and talk about that. Really concerned about what I feel about landfill and the work. We ask questions and listen. Being a good listener is very important, especially with solid waste. There's a lot of things that goes on. I want to give a lot of credit to him for listening, and that means a lot to me. Come a long way with something. Still doing good things, and having a director like him, it means a lot. Talk about things. And that's having a good sense of humor. Directing that means a lot. And like I told him today, look at the thing, and we come back. One of the guys from across the field and say, "Hey, what's up, boss? What's up, Camden?" I said, "We ain't." I said, "See that?" And I told him, I said, "You see that?" I see those guys, they love him, and they respect him, and I appreciate Camden guys. Thanks.
Can I say a short thing about Cyrus? I prepared this. So Cyrus Roberts has been a loyal employee with the Camden County Solid Waste Department for over 23 years and operations manager for the last 5. Honest, hardworking, and capable are words that describe Cyrus. He comes to work every day with a great attitude and leads by example. He is well respected by his coworkers. In working with Cyrus, I have found Cyrus to have great character, and he does the right thing even when no one is watching. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Cyrus for all he does. We're blessed to have him at the Solid Waste Department. Thank you, Cyrus.
All right, this brings us to our first public comment section of the night. We'll limit it to 3 minutes and agenda items only. Anybody register?
If I could, Mr. Kenny, would you like to speak now?
I'd like to speak now that you're adding something to the agenda, if that's all right.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
ask.
that's on there. Rick.
That's Rick Manning from Bullhead. Now that the gun range, noise is back on the agenda, I wanted to get that out to you before you discussed it. This has been going on for 2 years, folks. I mean, and to me, it is an emergency, Ben. I just, I've been fighting this for a long time. I'm through fighting with the Board of Commissioners. If something's not done, it's gonna fight through the court, and we all know that. I promised it and I promised it. I've been trying to keep from causing court costs to my fellow citizens. It's the only reason it hasn't been done yet. Same thing went on with the private gun range. And in that argument with that private gun range was the same county code, 810, that was used against them, that you're breaking now. And then here I get little nits and picks about, well, Georgia codes 41-1-9 exempts shooting ranges. No, it does not. I got you highlighted your clause in there that states that it does not. I mean, folks, this is just getting ridiculous. Georgia Code 51-9-1 also protects private property owners. There's no clause against that. Now look here, this gun range was approved. All y'all knew there was ordinance. If you didn't, the project manager should have told you. Nowhere can anybody find a variance that got put in for that noise ordinance to be changed or a variance for it. So we're operating way out of codes already. Let's do something with it, because if you don't, it's going to cost you more in the long run, irregardless. So let's put the money in it and fix it, or do away with it. The choice is y'all's, because I am not stopping. Y'all know I won't stop. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Register?
Ms. Gray, if it's okay, I'm gonna call you during the second public comment, since this item's not on the agenda right now. But I'm gonna call you in the second one. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak before the board? Seeing none, we'll move on. Julie, you're up.
Good evening. I'm requesting that the board approve a $2,509.50 grant from the ACCG through the Georgia County Internship Program. These funds will be used to hire a college student to work as an intern this summer. This intern will work in the Public Works Department, but be supervised by Joey in planning. Some of the duties include to identify, collect, and plot GIS points for cross pipes located under roads and county-owned outfall ditches, to complete a bridge assessment inventory, to research road history and to find missing information, and to build our road files, and to locate subdivision plats and deeds to research survey data. The department will contribute $750 as match. At this time, I would like approval to accept the award as presented.
All right, can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
First and second, to accept the grant award. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Carry. Okay. Sure. We like big.
Oh, goodness. I'll just sit there.
Sure, Jim. Big kid. Matter of not standing behind you.
Hey, Nance.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This agenda item is to establish whom shall serve on the fiscal year 25 Budget Committee. Historically, it's been the chairman and one other commissioner, and we're also requesting that an alternate be appointed just in case there's a need, if someone's unable to attend. And the Budget Committee meets 1 day a week during April. Usually, we've done it on a Friday. So we have 4 Fridays in April, and I think that there's one other Tuesday. We found that the 4 meetings isn't quite enough, so we need 5 full days. So we're asking for that to be established.
Okay, this year on the budget committee, it'll be myself, Commissioner Brandt, and Mr. Turner will serve as the alternate.
Thank you. And the next agenda item is whom shall serve on the SPLOST 9 committee. And that committee meets with the departments as well as the cities and negotiates the intergovernmental agreement, et cetera.
Okay, for SPLOST 9, it'll be myself, Mr. Turner, and Mr. Brandt will serve as the alternate on.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4, Kelsey.
Good evening, Commissioners. This agenda item is for your consideration to approve the audiovisual design, installation, and upgrade for county meeting rooms from JSC Systems. Purchasing issued an RFP and received 5 proposals. Of the 5, JSC was the least expensive and most responsive bidder. JSC's proposal came in at $557,016. Their proposal came in $72,984 under what was budgeted for the AV for county meeting rooms. This is inclusive of the Resiliency Center, Resiliency Operations Center, and the Government Services Complex. Staff recommends approval of the contract to JSC for the AV design, installation, and upgrade to county meeting rooms.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve as the recommendation.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion.
Yeah. We got local bids on this as well, right?
We did, but unfortunately, they did not meet our requirements. Their bid bond was missing a signature. They did not include the detailed drawings. They did not include the subcontractor affidavit, and we had a price breakdown that they did not fill out completely. So that under those, they would be disqualified.
They were a good bit higher.
Yes, they came in at 1.3 million.
More discussion? First and second to approve this award for audiovisual design. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Motion carried. Parson? Glad you're feeling better.
Thank you. I don't look much better, but I feel better. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here today to ask for your consideration to accept the MOA agreement with Coastal Pines Technical College. As you know, they have 3 campuses, one in Waycross, one in Brunswick, and one here locally. This agreement will allow their EMS students to use us as a clinical site so they can come and do their ambulance time with us. We do currently have 2 of our own employees that are in their paramedic program. So that only will also help them since they do live locally.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and second to approve the memorandum of agreement with Coastal Pines Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, this time we need to adjourn the regular meeting and convene the solid waste authority. We have a motion for that.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I got a first and second to adjourn the meeting and adjourn and go into a solid waste authority meeting. All in favor? Are there any amendments to the agenda for the solid waste authority? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. First and second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor? Carried. There's no changes to the minutes from the February 6th meeting. Can I get a motion to adopt those minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a first and second to adopt the minutes. All in favor? Motion carried. This brings us to the public comment section for the solid waste authority. Is there anybody ready? Anybody wish to speak on an agenda item for solid waste? Saying none, we'll move on. Okay, Cameron.
Today we're here to talk about a rental agreement for a Komatsu D65 for the landfill. In December, we were in a bad spot with our heavy equipment at the landfill. All 5 of our dozers were out of service. In order to stay operational, we rented a Komatsu D65 that we had on site as a demo for a month, which turned out to be a really good thing. It allowed us to stay in compliance with EPD regulations and also keep up with the large increase of tonnage that we've seen at the landfill from the Pinova plant that's closing down. Over the last, 6 weeks, we've done over $1 million in business just from the Pinova waste stream, which has been, the majority of it has been benzol, which is a pine resin product made out of pine sap. And we've done about almost $900,000 in that material and right at $250,000 in wood chips. To keep up with that and stay operational, the D65 has done a great job. What we're asking for tonight is permission to go ahead and rent it for 2 more months at a cost of $45,000.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
You got a first and second to approve this rental agreement. Any more discussion?
Yeah, the thing you said that you, over the last 6 weeks, made $1 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure that, would you make that $1 million without this piece of equipment?
We wouldn't have been able to operate.
Would not.
Not only would we not have captured that revenue, but we wouldn't have been able to stay in compliance.
What's the current status on the 5 that we had in disrepair at the end of last year?
We've got 2 of them back. Well, our 2 D6T, Cat D6Ts are our 2 waste handlers. Those are the ones that actually go in the garbage and are the most important. We've got one of those back, that had the major transmission repair. The other one's still in the shop, having undercarriage work done. We've also got the D6N back. That's a smaller dozer that can go in the trash, but it's not quite as capable as the D6T. The 2 D65s are, I think, past their useful life cycle and have not been operational and are probably not worth repairing.
So get ready to buy some bulldozers.
It happens.
Yeah. We got a first and second on this. All in favor? Motion carried.
Yeah, and I think just for clarity, I mean, the last time we bought dozers was 2019, I believe. Those were the 2 D6Ts.
And just to add something to it, I mean, the main issue is that all of the dozers we have right now are right at 10,000 hours or over 10,000 hours, which is right about where you want to rebuild or replace them. And so what we need to do is try to space that out over a 4-year period or so, 5-year period. So you don't have the big repairs all coming in 1 year, you know? It's kind of what the equipment replacement schedule goal is.
From what I understand, y'all are happy with the Komatsu?
Yes, sir. It's been doing a really good job.
The other thing to note too, if the board wanted to entertain the purchase of this dozer in the future, all of the rental prices that we have will be credited against the purchase price.
I believe it's 80%.
Is it 80%? Okay. Still, it's a large chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, any more discussion on bulldozer? This brings us to the final public comment section for solid waste. Anybody wish to speak? I'll limit you to 3 minutes, Rick.
Wanted to see if I was still up for that offer. I want to go out and see where how the Benzol's being handled.
Sure, anytime.
Get with me, okay? Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak?
But we are done taking the bins all. It's all buried in the working phase now.
All right, this time we need a motion to adjourn the solid waste authority and reconvene the regular meeting.
Chairman, make a motion. Get out of the solid waste authority meeting and reconvene the regular meeting.
Second.
Third. All in favor? All right, we're out of that trash.
Now, anyway.
For now, we're back in it, yeah. Okay, you can repeat everything again.
Yes, we're here tonight to ask for permission to rent, Komatsu D65 from Lender, for 2 months at a price of, $45,000.
We'll get a motion on the side.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We go first and second. To approve the rental agreement, all in favor?
49,000, I'm sorry.
Motion carried. All right, this brings us to our newly added, item number 7. About the gun range. You wanted, what was your question again, Mr. Goodman?
Thank you.
If I recall correctly, we're spending $200,000, $250,000, I stand corrected. And, please refresh my memory, is what was the disposition of that? Why haven't we done it? Mr. Manning has appeared, as he indicated, for the last 2 years. I personally think he has a legitimate concern. I take the prospect of what he's talking about seriously. I'd like for this board to quit with the studies and get with the program of noise abatement and use that $250,000 to start that process, if not accomplish that process.
And I respond. All right, at one of our strategic planning, meetings we had, you stated that 3 miles away, there's no way it's a nuisance. However, I'm glad you changed your mind.
Yep.
So I've always been in favor of more soundproofing. That $250,000, if I remember correctly, it was also to add a 5-stand shotgun range. And at the time at the budget committee meeting last year, we had it in there. I was pretty much the only one that was in favor of going for it, but it was cut out of the budget. Nobody wanted to put it back in the budget. So that's where we stand. Now, if you want to add it back in the budget this year, we can look at it and go from there.
Mr. Chairman, could I add something to that?
Yeah.
Mr. Manning himself told us to take it out because it would not do any good, what we were planning on doing. Mr. Manning requested that we take the funds out of the budget because it wouldn't work.
Can you look that up, Katie? Because I think I'm the one that took it off. I think it was me.
Well, your statement at the time after Mr. Manning spoke was, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And then, nobody wanted to put it on.
I think we need to go back in the minutes and find that and restate it. Cause if you didn't say it, then I misunderstood you big time. Well, that's possible. I mean, I worked at the mill for 20 years.
Well,
Can't
hold
hear
on
it.
right there.
Yeah. But the thing about
This
it
is
is,
not a public comment section right now.
but the thing about it is, I recommend that we basically go back, look at the minutes and see exactly what was said, and then go from there. If $250,000 would solve that problem, then I'm all for it.
Just for clarification, it was $200,000, but it was not approved as part of the fiscal year 24 budget. So if the board wants to add that money back in, we have to have a balanced budget. So we will have to look at the revenue side, just to have that offset. So just please know that.
But we did, now, just so you know this, we actually went to Ricky's house. We were there that day. It wasn't a bad day. I mean, I could barely hear it that day. We had a sound guy with us. He set up. He didn't think it was that bad. But then you started sending videos that showed that it was, there were different times. And I think that we just have to continue to check it out. And if it's affecting you like you say it is, it'll come out. I've been at my brother's house when they're firing down there and you can barely hear it down there. Not saying that maybe the wind blows a different way that day or whatever. But I think that maybe we should just look at it again and see what it'll take, because we never went any farther when we took it out of the budget. I thought it was 250, but maybe it's 200. I'm sure you know more than I do as far as that goes.
Whatever the dollar amount was, it was taken out of the budget.
It was.
To balance it.
But it never hurts to take another look. Never.
Well, I've said it all along that, more soundproofing would definitely help. I said it back in 2016 when we first started talking about the gun range. And I also said it could be solved if we're willing to spend the money. We weren't willing to spend the money last year because it was taken out of the budget.
Okay. So we don't need a motion. We just need to look at it next meeting, right? Is that right?
I'd like to make a motion that we, in earnest, find the money and solve the problem. It's been 2 years. So I'd like to make a motion that we expend up to $200,000, that we reallocate whatever we need to do to find that money and begin the process of creating a certain level of sound barrier and add to it as needed in the next budget cycle. We were at that point at one time. I'm willing to be back at that point. That's in the form of a motion.
Which is, we pulled $200,000 out of our funds, right?
Yeah.
But what is the answer?
Well, what funds are we gonna pull it out of?
I don't know.
I
And
think,
what is the answer?
I think we need to do a little research on where we need to pull the money from and then come back and revisit it.
That would be a positive step.
And I think that we need to find out exactly what's going on, and actually state that. It was not bad the day we were there, but that was one day. That was one day. But it wasn't bad that day. You were there, I was there, Sean was there, and then we had that expert. What was his name? You remember?
It was Troy Acoustics that was there. They had a decibel reader. They were reading the decibels in just the natural environment.
You want to change your motion to where we investigate it and find out where we need to find the money from?
I'd like to change the motion that we investigate it and have this as a standing agenda item until we solve the problem. I don't want to see this investigated and go away. I want to see this problem solved.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we'll get it on the next Can we get it on by the next agenda, information?
Yeah, we're just,
Next meeting?
yes, sir, we can.
All right.
Now, when you say standing, I mean, you want this on an agenda item every meeting until
We solve the
it's
problem, Sean.
it's resolved. Okay.
Thank you,
Just wanted
sir.
to clarify.
Yes, sir.
I'll second it. Any more discussion? You want to repeat it?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So there's a motion on the floor to find the money and solve the problem of reallocating $200,000 and add to it as needed in the next budget cycle. And then that motion was amended to also include to investigate further and have as a standing agenda item until fall.
And it was seconded by the chairman, correct?
Yes, yes.
Can we get some clarity just on like what we're trying to resolve, whether it's the addition of the funds back into the budget or if it's the actual sound abatement itself?
Yeah, we gotta have some kind of game plan.
The word noise abatement. The word noise abatement was used prior to the.
All right, now the original, last year when we did the budget, we had a plan to add to the canopy to help with the sound. Is that what you're wanting to do?
If that was what was indicated, would solve the problem, and we discussed funding that's exactly what we need to do.
I have no problem doing that and adding the 5 stand back in there.
And the what?
5 stand shotgun.
Yeah, the 50,000, I think where the 250,000 figure was coming from, the 50 was for the 5 stand, the 200,000 was for the noise abatement.
Wasn't the 5 stand, wasn't there some kind of grant that was associated with it?
DNR anticipates paying 90% of the cost to develop the 5 stand. We're still working with DNR for that.
Okay. Are we confident that these solutions with the acoustical additions are going to reduce the decibels coming out of the site?
I believe it will reduce the decibels. Will it totally negate them?
Get it?
No.
I doubt it.
All right, we got a first and a second. I think we understand where we need to go with this, Sean.
Yeah, I'll just, one more point of discussion. I'm not, I think this motion has good intentions. I'm just not positive it's going to solve the issue. And
I agree with that.
Well, we'll put it to a vote and see how it goes. All in favor? Those opposed? All right, that brings us to, reports.
Yes, sir. On the calendar, I would just remind you that a work session has been added on March 5th at 5 PM for discussions regarding SPLOST 9. And that's all I have.
County Administrator comment?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman, just like to, has he left already? Cyrus, just congratulate, Mr. Cyrus Roberts, on his, accomplishments for being nominated to, and selected as the employee of the quarter for the fourth quarter for last year. His performance is just outstanding, and his professionalism, attitude, and demeanor at the workplace is just beyond reproach. The other thing, getting just to a little bit more work is early voting for the presidential preference primary started yesterday. That'll go on for the next 2.5 weeks, really. It's 3 weeks total early voting. So right now, the early voting location is at the county annex, right off of Highway 40 and Gross Road. And then starting next week, next Monday, they will have 2 additional locations, one here in Woodbine at the election office and then also at the St. Mary's Visitor Center. With that, that's all I have tonight.
Which brings us to the final public comment section of the night.
Yes, Ms. Dawn Gray.
We'll limit you to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Don Gray, St. Mary's. I'm requesting that you, the Board of County Commissioners, in your capacity as the governing body of this county, to include the Superintendent of Elections in compliance with Title 21 of the OCGA, to compel the Superintendent of Elections to uphold the law and qualify all Republican candidates in Camden County until the challenges surrounding the lawful qualifications of said candidates is resolved. The last legal rules and identification of committee members authorized to act as legitimate Republican committee in Camden County was filed with the probate court in 2015. Since that time, no legal documentation has been presented to either the probate court prior to 2018, nor the superintendent of elections. While there is a document which has been asserted are the rules of the Camden County Republican Committee provided to the supervisor of elections on 11/9/2023, this document fails to meet the standard asserted by the OCGA Title 21 and the rules of the Georgia Republican Party. It has been suggested that this document provided by Rachel Baldwin and Margaret Patel is indicative of the legal authority of a said group not identified in the document to act as the lawful Republican committee. It's important to note that Ms. Baldwin, who claims that she is the chair of the Republican committee, admitted at the special called superintendent of election meeting on 2/15/2024 that there's been ongoing challenge related to the identity and purpose of the group which she purports to lead. At that meeting, Ms. Baldwin acknowledged uncertainty related to the challenges surrounding the true entity which she represents, the Camden County Republican Party Incorporated. This County Republican Party Incorporated is a member prohibitive entity registered with the Secretary of State's office as a domestic non-profit corporation with no members, contrary to Georgia Code 212-111. Which sets forth a representative committee-based structure for official lawful political organizations in the state of Georgia. The CEO of the corporation, Rachel Baldwin, has acknowledged that the body is not operating properly and it's not been worked and has been worked on for more than a year. She further acknowledges that there was no Republican county convention held in March of 2023, a requirement for candidate qualification and poll watcher participation in the election process. In fact, Ms. Baldwin has stated that it was the corporation, not the committee, which held the convention. Definitions of political committees are clearly defined in 52 U.S.C. 30-1014-56. While I accept that Ms. Baldwin's admission is that she's not a lawyer and has experienced difficulty understanding the meaning of Title 21, in FDIC versus Loudermilk, Georgia 2014, it was made clear that we must read the statutory text in its most natural and reasonable way as an ordinary speaker of the English language would. In Dill v. Coleman, Georgia 2017, it's noted it is our duty to interpret the law as it's written. Corporations are entities that act as a single fictional purpose. Under 28 U.S.C.A. 1332C, a corporation shall be deemed to be a citizen of every state and foreign state by which it's been incorporated and of the state or foreign state where it was. Corporate committees, not corporations, qualify candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Rashford? Anybody else wish to speak?
Bauer from Harriet's Bluff. And seeing as how y'all brought it up this evening, I'd like to know how much does the gun range produce in revenue? And what happens to all the brass that's picked up out there? And how much does this county augment the range with?
Get you that information. But we recycle the brass.
All right, I'm back here again, Rick Manning from Bullhead. Now, please go back and read your minutes. Because what I stated was take all the funding out. I didn't say this, the 200,000 until the range problem was solved with the noise. Now, you're still breaking the law. So you're gonna sit here and tell me that we're gonna hack and haggle this for another 2 years when you're breaking the law. I'm tired of it. The law's gonna come and it's gonna be enforced. Now, I've got Mr. Boatwright's statement to me, which is essentially, go get you a lawyer and sue me. That's all this county believes in. Don't fix your problem, sue me. Now, as for, Mr. Turner, when you and Mr. Casey was out there, there was a north wind blowing. Do y'all read anything I give you? Any information? Add 20 decibels when it's coming out of the south to my house. So that's right there. That's research, real research with real equipment. There's no research done in that range study. Have any of y'all even read it? It's all predicted. So, but if the wind's blowing from the north and I'm not hearing it, what does that mean? Somebody else is. We've got reports 8 miles away. Reports from Browntown, reports from May Bluff, Burnt Ford of that gun range. But y'all gonna sit here and haggle. And I'm gonna sitting out here and I'm probably getting the worst end of it because everything's clear cut between me and there now. You don't hear it, Martin, because the landfill's in between you. Out at Bill's, I've been there, I know. I went out there to listen. This is getting ridiculous. Y'all gonna sit here and put it off again? After I've been waiting on you for 2 years and is trying to stay away from laws and suing this place because I care about this county. Evidently, y'all don't. And I'm tired of it. Just sue me. That's what you want, every one of you. That's the answers I get. It's not, we're gonna fix our mistake because you made a mistake and you know it. You used the same ordinance against a private gun range that you're breaking. And you know you're breaking it. Fix it. Gosh, people. And you'll want.
Anybody else will speak? All right, this time we need to motion adjourn the regular meeting and convene an executive session for the purpose of discussion litigation and information technology related items.
So move.
Second. First and second, all in favor? executive session and reconvene the regular meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, we're back in the regular meeting. Any action from the executive session?
Yes, sir. I've got like to make a motion to move to purchase technology updates for hardware for the amount of $63,695.53.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. All right, we got a motion for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All in favor? We are done.
Done.